So with the release of the Year 7 EZAs, I decided it's about time to make an updated top 10 LRs tier list. I've had some time to use them in game, test them in a bunch of different situations, and over the course of the last few weeks I've been able to test all the anniversary LRs too, and we're just going to rank them again in a top 10 fashion. Now, there is going to be the EX part upcoming, and I personally don't think we'll see like another LR EZA or LR Super EZA. Not that it's impossible to happen, but I feel like if we're gonna, continue with the EXY, which seems extremely likely, we're probably gonna get like, the GT Super Saiyan Goku and Vegeta from Golden Week or into Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta. Like, I'm not expecting an LR to get like a Super EZA. I mean, if they would give us one, maybe the original, LREZ, that's a summonable character, Goku Frieza, could be possible, right? I mean, you see he's all the way back here with the EZA symbol. So, I mean, I guess that's definitely an option, but I mean, maybe they could do this. Super Saiyan 2 Gohan is his first EZA, but I don't know. I'm going to assume that if we're going to get like a Super EZA, it would be like the year 2 Super Saiyan 4s even. So, I mean, I'm not really thinking LRs for this, so we're just gonna do this now, and if there is a new LR or two or something like that, we'll go ahead and definitely make an update for that character. But again, yeah, we're also going to be doing like ABC, like kind of tier list, right, with a bunch of characters in one tier. It's kind of splitting it up for Red Zone and Battle Hardened Formidable Foes. Now, this tier list is mostly considering, I would say, Red Zone still. Battle Hardened Foes is definitely hard fights, right? But I feel like the Red Zones just have overall more cheesy mechanics that, kind of get in the way with the locking, the dodge, disable, things like that. Whereas Battle Hardened Foes, I think you could definitely argue them as harder stages. I feel like there's honestly probably more ways around those stages because they're so short. You can get away with more gimmicky characters and things like that, but either way, we'll be taking that into consideration still, just not as much as the Red Zones, and we'll kind of show the different tier list kind of variants of them. Now, I do have some honorable mentions I do want to include here, just because I feel like these are characters that you could like slide into like 10-ish, but I feel like didn't exactly make the cuts. I think they're very close, and in certain situations could be argued above some of the lower characters on the tiers. And that is going to be, if we take a look here, Super Saiyan 2 Gohan, and then AGL UI Goku, right? Those are my two honorable mentions here. I mean, I don't really think there's too much to say about AGL UI Goku. He actually was higher on my list last time, but there's been a couple of new characters that have released. And beyond that, there's been the Red Zones that have the dodge disable, which does impact this guy unless you're running him specifically with TEQ UI Goku. This guy is pretty much fodder in those fights. However, I still do think that he deserves an honorable mention kind of list here because of his effect in the Battle Hardened Formidable Foes fights. He has that turn 1 guaranteed dodge in those fights, so I mean, if you play things right, he's pretty much going to be untouchable. He could be a very good slot 1 character for you. In those fights, he has the revival skill, which I feel like I've had this ability up in those fights more often than Red Zone, of course, because those fights will just instantly hit you harder. And whilst, there's ways around that, I think that falling under 77% HP is definitely not like an impossible thing to see. And with that revive up, he's able to protect the whole team. So all in all, I think this guy is incredible for those fights. It's just the hardest, newest Red Zone fights, he could struggle a little. And the longer fight goes on, technically the more of a chance he will actually get hit, because while it's a 77% chance to dodge start of turn, it's not like it's not going to be something that you're going to land every time, right? Eventually this guy is going to get hit outside of his turn 1 turn. So that's why I do like this guy a lot more in shorter content. But since this list is favored slightly more towards Red Zone, that's why, this guy is not as high as he arguably could be. But there's still a lot of good units here that fit short events. Now, Super Saiyan 2 Gohan is very good. I think that this guy is doing a lot of great things, but I don't think that he's doing anything that, like, he doesn't have, like, he has that one turn where when you use the father son Kamehameha, does incredible damage. You know, when he super attacks, he's shooting out really like a really high single attack stat, but I feel like it feels like there's something missing to make this guy on that tier of like, oh, he's great, he's top like 5 material, right? I think if he had some extra mechanic, that'd be nice. And really, it's probably just the fact that he doesn't have a team protecting mechanic per se, or something that is applied to all allies. He pretty much is just a character that sits in slot 2. He'll get built up, he does good damage, he does, you know, nice tanking wise, right? I've seen this guy able to eat super attacks very well. Don't let this guard plus 20% reduction fool you. The amount of defense he gets post super, especially here, and then once he gets this off, like it's quite a bit of defense that you don't really see. Like a lot of this guy's defense stat you see mostly after he attacks, right? So that is definitely something to consider. But yeah, I don't know, I think maybe he could have kept additionals still. Like these additionals going away do kind of suck, because it's like he does like the single big attack stat, but he loses like 3 additional supers that he can get off. And then I feel like it kind of still evens out, even though he has a crit here. Maybe the crit being restricted to turn 5, was that really necessary? I don't know. I feel like there's like little things that you could talk about. It's like they didn't have to do this, or it's like maybe they could have given him this, right? Does that make sense? I obviously still think that he's doing very well. I just feel like, again, it's at the end of the day, he's not doing anything where I'm like, oh yeah, I'm picking him because he has this ability. Like he's just a nice, you know, just option you could throw on any team, which in itself is valuable. But I like having characters who have a clear designated role on like, okay, I'm running up for this, and at most it is the active skill turn, which again, I mean, the active skill looks so good. And he does do quite a bit of damage, but I feel like, you know, maybe something a little extra, right, would be all I would say for this guy. But him being obviously an honorable mention spot right here is huge, because this is probably the most competitive a top 10 list has really been. The unit designs have been really great for the most part, so even being just in this honorable mention slot is really good. Now, for my actual number 10 spot, we do have Super Saiyan 3 Gotenks. So Super Saiyan 3 TEQ Gotenks did release in December, and we can go ahead and grab him right here. I feel like the thing about this guy compared to UI Goku or Gohan is that he's doing a lot of things at a consistent rate, right? He's not inconsistently doing anything. Does that make sense? He's always providing the rainbow orb changing. He's really good on ki. He has the 55% reduction for the first few turns, which is nice. The final trump card restriction is not difficult at all. You know, I guess this is the only thing where it's like could be maybe there's been a lot more ki blast super attacks. So with the ki blast super attack, this guy could get all the way up to a 99% damage reduction rate. And then even with this high chance of 777% defense, like this guy's able to tank everything. His active skill makes him just like hit so hard, 77% defense for the turn. It's pretty much just a 4th turn active skill, right? Gotenks is doing a lot, right? He's providing so much to the team, and I'm a big fan of what this guy's doing overall. Now, yeah, no, I mean, it's just like he also just does consistently more damage than the other two, in my opinion, right? He just does more damage than UI Goku, but against Gohan, like Gohan doesn't have the crits until later on. This guy's just guaranteed critting always, right? That's something I'm talking about, where it's just more free. He's less restricted. He could do everything he can just instantly besides the active skill, which I think is nice. Like I feel like this guy's like a mix of what these two are doing to an extent, right? Like in terms of, you know, this guy's pretty free in what he's doing. This guy has a higher cap, and this guy's kind of like in the middle with the orb changing. Like obviously not in terms of their unit designs, but in terms of like, you know, how I think how free it is to use this character. I think that's one, I guess that's one thing you can say about all these characters. Like Gohan does have this restriction here, and they come in Maha restriction, but that's not really anything crazy to me. That will be very easy to go ahead and get done. So I don't know. I just personally feel like overall I like Gotenks. It's close. Could you argue any of these characters over Gotenks? I could see it. I'm gonna say I think Gotenks' value, especially with the Rainbow Orb changing, is what really pushes him above for me. And this active skill is just like the 77% defense, man. That's crazy. Like this Gotenks can hit crazy numbers on the new 220% Gogeta team. It's crazy. So I keep saying crazy, man. Anyways, let's move on to our number 9 spot, which is TEQ Broly. Actually, this should be INT Broly. Oops. Well, INT Broly should be in this number 9 spot right here. Well, I guess I spoiled the next few spots low-key, but it's fine. So with INT Broly here, at our, yeah, I was gonna say, where is it? I messed up. I was like, no, TEQ Broly's that shouldn't be here. I'm like, this has been too early for this guy. Where is he? INT Broly right here. There he is. Okay, perfect. I should have maybe gotten this better ahead of time. Now, INT Broly is a really good leader skill character, man. I mean, uncontrollable power. You could tell I got thrown off by that. It's so bad. I was in my chat. I was in my like groove, and then I just saw that. I was like, what? No, but I mean, this guy's uncontrollable power team continues to get better. I mean, it keeps getting better, and I think that it'll probably continue to get better as well, right? I mean, we could get a 220% leader this year. Wrathful Broly could be a really cool addition to this team. I mean, just when his domain is up, guard plus 60% reduction with the amount of defense he has slot 1, he's able to cook really well. I think especially his impact in battle hardened foes kind of helps this out, right? With his great chance to stun. His support just like lasting multiple turns early on, allowing your characters to build up. Like this could be extreme class 80% defense for the first 4 or 5 turns of the match, which is crazy, right? Well, for 4 turns, right? I mean, yeah, he heals. He has the revive skill turn 5. Like he's doing so much for the team. I mean, if his revive activates, he provides support ability 60% to uncontrollable power, and this up makes his defense go up just way higher. So yeah, no, he's him with his domain up. I think it could be an issue with him in longer events where, you know, his domain could be a little tricky, but unlike Gotenks, who, you know, Gotenks is just 5 turns, he has this 22% reduction, which could be quite tricky in the longer fights. Broly here, you know, he could choose when to do it, and the fights don't hit that hard early on, so I don't think it's like as big of a deal for this guy, because again, since you're able to choose when to use the domain, you can't just wait until later on in the fight, and then it's like, okay, at the end of the fight now I could pop the domain when I actually needed to tank, and we're good to go, right? So that's one good thing there. I mean, I feel like everyone knows how good this INT Broly is. I mean, yeah, he's like, you have to run him on the uncontrollable power team, and that's the only thing. If you could run him on any team, things could probably get crazier, but I like him in the spot number 9. Now I just showed him. Have TEQ Broly at the number 8 spot, which is kind of crazy. It just there's so many good characters that were introduced during this anniversary. Now TEQ Broly is just, I think I have to, yeah, what I'll do is I'm probably gonna just bring up the next 3 spots anyways. We have, because I think they're very similar. TEQ Broly, Beast Gohan, and then actually Great Ape Vegeta, which is kind of crazy. I didn't really think he would be up here, but no. I think these 3 fit a similar vibe as slot 1 characters, and I'll probably explain why I like each of them above the other, but this is what I'm thinking for these characters. Now, TEQ Broly, very good, very powerful. Especially in these battle hardened foes fights, the 90% reduction, even against that Jiren that has guaranteed crits, this guy's not taking any damage. He's just good to go. Transform into the Super Saiyan or Legendary Super Saiyan Broly. This guy still has the guard 76% reduction. He's doing some decent damage, right? But he's just very consistent in what he's doing. You're not having any issues with him whatsoever. You know, there's more pure Saiyan Earthbred fighters enemies. Like, there's not that many, being fair. I mean, you could say the TEQ Kefla fight in the Universe Rival Saga, Red Zone. The Supreme Magnificent battle is not really hard. Like, you won't really see this too often, unfortunately, which this could be nice, the extra crit chance, but he does eventually build up to 50% crit in here anyways. And yeah, no, he does have the attack disable factor, which I think is really cool too. Getting his active skill off will give him this pretty good buff right there. Key 3, 26% attack and defense in battle. Like, that matters for sure. I would say the only thing is, in longer fights, which do exist, this will run out and it won't be like, it will matter really. 26% is a lot to lose, man. Going from 76% reduction on guard to 50% does kind of suck. Now, if you're running full power, or not full power, AGL Super Saiyan 4 Goku on the team, he still will get 60% reduction in guard, which is nice, right? That's another thing with INT Broly, by the way. Super Saiyan 4 Goku does help this guy out. He'll get 70% reduction in guard. I think that's probably one reason why he's maybe not as high, just because I think when we consider red zone fights, his passive will run out for sure, especially because he himself was not doing damage early on. I think, when we're in the Goku Frieza meta, right, I think it was a lot easier to get to the final stage, but before this guy even would even think about running out of his passive. But in these new fights, not really as much, especially because, like, we don't have like the fusions on this uncontrollable power team, so you're gonna be going through that event for a very long time, like those type of events. In Battle Hardened Foes, though, this guy cooks, so he's still obviously the top 10 character. Beast Gohan is kind of the same thing, where I would say, past turn 5, it could be dangerous for him because he'll lose this 40% reduction. And especially if you somehow weren't able to get him built up, this guy's only at 20% with guard. 40% reduction with guard is still fine though, right? I like TEQ Broly, 50% reduction in guard is still fine though. It could be dangerous for him though in a Psalm 1 performance. He could definitely get hit very hard. Now, the reason why I would have this guy above TEQ Broly is because he does have this active skill. I mean, even with this active skill, I would say he, like, if we're talking about the Battle Hardened Foes fights, I would actually move him probably a bit higher, just because this is so good. But you could save this active skill for later on in fights, right? And even in long fights, and this guy will still have more than enough defense to be good for you, right? In those longer fights. Just having this does matter to me, and it being able to be a team protector is so huge, right? And I think that's why I would have him above TEQ Broly. It's the active skill that could help him ease a little better in these longer fights. He's also on, like, the like 220% team for like the TEQ Vegito, for example, right? He links very well with him. He gets all the family with him, and I think the partners like that do matter. You can run TEQ Broly on the new teams, right? The fusions teams as well, but he's only getting 170%. It still is nice though, right? Him being a pure Saiyan character, being able to fit those teams. So I just think Beast is overall in a better spot currently than Great Vegeta. I think the thing about this guy is he's just going to be, I feel like outside of, like, I think TEQ Broly for the first few turns is a better tank. I think obviously Beast, when he gets his 80% reduction, will be a better tank. But this character is not, like, he's not losing stats. If anything, later on in fights, if you have him with Super Saiyan 4 Goku, he'll get stronger. Because he'll go from 60% reduction to 70%. And especially if the boss ends up supering out to this guy, he's unkillable post super attack, right? Unlike these two, like post super attack, Beast Gohan does get some extra defense for sure. Broly doesn't get extra defense post super because he, in fact, if anything, he actually well, no, he gets this and then he gets this, right? So I guess he will have more defense post attacking, but actually, no, man, his Toki does raise defense for the turn. I'm kind of stupid, dude. These characters do so much at this point, but it's not to the effective with this guy, where I'm like, yeah, this guy's completely unkillable in terms of like the amount he's also tanking as well. Like, his defense gets so absurdly high. It's actually kind of crazy how high this guy's defense gets, man, because it's 360% here, and then he gets 50% here. And then if he gets the additional, he gets his 30%, of course. And just gets crazy. There are situations, maybe, if you don't have Super Saiyan 4 Goku at the team, you get this Great Ape transformation, and he could provide a team protector mechanic as well, right? I feel like if you're running Super Saiyan 4 Goku, though, you're probably not seeing this at all, just because the thing about Super Saiyan 4 Goku is that he heals you when you're under 44% HP. So you're never gonna see this next to him. But yeah, there are some situations where maybe in short fights you might be able to take advantage of that. And another thing is that this guy is he's just very consistent with what he's doing. He's put him slot 1 and he's cooking, right? His defense activates instantly too, which is nice. I just don't, and this guy is just like always gonna be doing what he's doing. I feel like, with Beast, there's situations where he might not be able to. With TEQ Broly, in longer fights, there's situations he may not be able to. Not for TEQ Vegito. So that's why I do like this guy at number 6, which is crazy, man. But yeah, let's move on to number 5 here, which we do have the Super Saiyan 4 Goku I've been talking about. And I mean, I've been talking about him for a reason. His impact on these teams are just way too good. At first, I considered having him under these 3, but I thought about it more. I was like, no way, I just can't, right? It was just a split thought. I'm like, okay, am I valuing these guys' slot 1 performance, especially in these short fights, more than what this guy's doing? And I can't agree, man. His pre-transform state is solid, right? I would say it's nothing crazy. I feel like, he can hit up to like 30 mil attack stats. The guarantee crit is cool. 70% chance dodge he has. He is still supporting. But what's really good for this guy is he could transform technically the first rotation that you get him in. HP 70% or less. I talked about this with UI Goku, but especially in these short fights, getting under that threshold, I feel like is not really an issue because they just hit you very hard instantly, to where you can get this ability active, and then you could basically chain the Grid 8 mode is what I found. So you can chain it over and over in different fights. And, the Grid 8 mode is, I would consider a team protector ability because of the fact that you can just basically have the boss super attack you during this turn, and then they won't be able to super attack you after. Does decent damage. I would say, nothing crazy in terms of damage, but does really decent damage. But then Super Saiyan 4 Goku is insane, man. Damage reduction support, they don't get this nilly-willy, right? I think there's been 2 other characters that have had damage reduction support. The one that primarily comes to mind for me is Path to Parked Goku. I think there's one other character. I can never remember that character. But this guy, Power Beyond Super Saiyan or Grade A powers, 70% defense and 10% reduction. Let's take a look at those teams. Let's take a look at these characters that he's impacting with that damage reduction. Let's see. Oh, the LR Super Saiyan 4s, the LR Gods, Super Saiyan 2 Gohans, Blue Evolution, transforming Super Saiyan 3 Goku, Daima Goku, Super Saiyan 3 Gotenks, INT Broly, TEQ Broly, Super Saiyan 3 Angel Goku, Blue Evolution Vegeta, right? And then, I think we're getting to the point here where it's these characters aren't really that impactful, but even I've seen people use Limit Breaker Super Saiyan 4 Vegito because of that. Take a look at Grade 8 Power, or this is Giant Form, that's my bad. Not Grade 8 Power. I mean, Grade 8 Power is obviously not really going to have as many characters per se that will be impacted, but we can get some in the future. I mean, I would say Grade 8 Vegeta being impacted is huge. Later on, we can get the Super Saiyan 4 into Gogeta. He has Power Beyond Super Saiyan. These 2 are also on Power Beyond Super Saiyan, if I'm not mistaken, but I think their EZAs will be upcoming soon. Yeah, see, they're on Power Beyond Super Saiyan too. So and even if you're not on some of those categories, it doesn't really matter. You know why? Because he still provides multiple turn 44% attack and defense support for all allies, which is it's huge. It's basically giving everyone a 50% greatly raised defense roll and turn on the super attack effect. That's basically what you're giving to everyone. This is the heal I was talking about that could activate permanently. He stacks attack and defense as well. He's so easy to use, and he's just so impactful. It is really crazy what this guy's able to do, man. I feel like You know, in terms of his reliability, it's not going to be as high, but it's what he does to these other characters to make them more reliable. I think it's crazy. It's nasty, right? Because I think Super Saiyan 4 Goku, like outside of him like getting stacked up, he can get hit hard, but I mean he makes Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta like tank for 100% reduction. He makes Granny Vegeta tank with 70% reduction, right? You know, just examples like that, right? And that's because of him. So yeah. All right, we're getting to number 4 now. Now I feel like some people may not necessarily agree, but hear me out. That's what I'm thinking here. I actually like the gods a little better than the Force. I think I do, right? I think I have to talk about these two together just because they're very similar. And I think that's something that people may not understand. Their base forms are identical. They're doing literally the exact same thing. I would say, you know, at best, this guy has a better leader skill. They're doing the exact same thing, right? There's no difference between their stats. They pretty much, I feel like, even out for the most part when you get their links up. They're both cooking very well, right? At the end of the day, what you do with these guys is you just stock them up, right? They both had this 77% reduction for one turn, which is absurd. This stupid ability. And, you know, when we consider battle hardened foes, that's also a very stupid strong ability. Plus the guard, they're unkillable turn 1. Turn 3 could be an issue for them. I think that it could be. It's not, like, in the long fights, though, it's not really going to be that much of an issue, I found, right? You know, it could be a little scary in some shorter situations, right? Let's say, you know, battle harder foes, you get these guys turn 1, then they're on their turn 3. You know, they're not going to be able to slot one for you there, but that's pretty much the only situation. That's considering you don't just like float these guys off and get them on turn 4, right? And then you could transform into them. Same thing with the gods, right? You know, same thing for both of these characters. They're just characters who stack up. Then I feel like the thing is that you look at what these guys are doing, right? And it's like Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta on paper, I think it looks better. And I said that when I was looking at the video, right? He has the Scouter plus the counter attack super, right? The 70% chance. And he even has the guaranteed one when the enemy is under 50% HP or less. Like, that matters. Plus the damage reduction, I feel like, is more valuable than the dodge that these guys have, right? Because there's a lot of bosses that disable dodge now. But when you really use these guys and you're just like trying to win with them, what you do is, like, all you pretty much do is transform at the end of the fight, right? You're not gonna transform them before the last phase. I mean, you do want to transform them after the 7 turns. At least in my experience with the amount of damage they're doing, I'm not running into an issue where, oh no, I'm before the final phase and I am forced to transform them if I'm, again, not intentionally going out of my way to hold them back, or maybe running a certain team mode that I have to run for a category mission. Like, if I'm just using these guys for the most part, even if with just category missions, like, I transform them basically at the end. So what I find happening is you have their first turn and the boss is done. Right? So it doesn't even matter, like, anything after this turn 1. So they both have this 77% reduction. They're both unkillable. I would say Gogeta can get up to the 100% damage reduction. The gods can't. But right now that doesn't matter, because no matter what, the boss is not going to kill you anyways, right? I think in terms of on paper, it is nice that Gogeta can get 100% reduction, but the amount of defense you stack up, like, these guys can get like 5 more defense. Plus, even higher, right? And that's like pre-super attack, right? Especially if you consider like AGO Gogeta's active skill. This character has the double orb changing. I find that more valuable right now than this guy's Scouter. Because the thing about this guy's Scouter is the team has like 4 other Scouter characters, right? You know, Super Vegito, Super Gogeta, TEQ Gogeta. Then this guy is like, you don't really need a Scouter. But I feel like the Rainbow Orb changing is so valuable. This character has that too. That's definitely something to consider. But like, this double Rainbow Orb changing, I find so good for this team. It goes so crazy, man. Because like, we have Tech Super Gogeta than this character, and it's like, I mean, AGO Gogeta's active skill does also orb change. It's tough, man. I think you could really make the argument for either of these two. I think what I would say is the gods having this guaranteed additional super here, and then the other extra guaranteed additional super is what gets it for me. Because that is just something that's going to happen. Pretty much this counter is nice, but neither of them are going to take damage. I think the biggest thing about this counter is that it could avoid you getting sealed, and it could also avoid you... I mean, avoiding getting sealed is huge. And it just does more damage. I don't know. Man, it is really tough between these two, man. I think it's way closer than people are thinking, but thinking about that counter being able to get outside of the like them getting stunned, I think is good. But you could just also put these guys in slot 2, right? Like that's you don't have to force them in slot 1. They would be a really good slot 1 character, but they're not a character that you have to force slot 1. They have this guaranteed dodge, which is cool. It's tough. I feel like I slightly like the gods more, but if you do this, I'm not mad at you either. I feel like I like the gods a little more just because of what they're doing. I think fits better for the team overall. And I feel like they're gonna, like, on that first transform turn, I feel like I've seen more damage output from them than Gogeta, but maybe my mind could change. I think I could see myself putting Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta above the gods, depending on the situation. And the battle hardened foes, they both pretty much act the exact same, right? And I would say, if you don't have this guy tied to Super Saiyan 4 Goku, which I don't think is really a difficult thing to have, but if you don't have this guy next to the Super Saiyan 4 Goku, he's not doing nearly as well because you're not having these grade 8 power links. I mean, you could run him with this guy, but this guy also wants to be around Super Saiyan 4 Goku, right? Well, this character, I think, is much more freeform because they're not reliant on some of these certain links. They also have just a better leader skill, which, you know, at this point, it's like, I think this team is one of the better teams in the game. This power beyond Super Saiyan Movie Heroes is insane. I think it's just a combination of all those. I do like the gods slightly better. Just slightly. It'd be like I don't know, like 1%. Like 1% better, right? And at that point, it doesn't really matter. I think we'll finish things off here with the obvious 1 and 2. I feel like there's not really much to say about these two guys. I've seen a lot of people argue that Gogeta should be 1. I could see the argument again. I think the thing with these 4 is that, like, these 4 are like the big 4, right? I think you could make a lot of changes around with these guys. I'm gonna say still like Super Vegito at the top because of the fact that I still think his team overall will be better, even though the year 7s will get the 220% in Gogeta's team. And, you know, if you're running the year 7s, I would run Gogeta as a leader personally. It's not like you can't run them in this team and they'll still dominate. They're still going to dominate even under a 170% leader skill. They'll be fine. And I think that in comparison with, like, in long events, I kind of do like this Vegeta over this Goku. In short fights, I like this Goku more. I think in battle hardened foes, Gogeta is better for sure. But it's really that Super Vegito's target skill once we get to the fusions, right? I mean, I guess one last thing I should say is I do like the Goku way better than I like the Vegeta here, for sure. When it comes to the fuse states, though, I just think that the target skill is overall more valuable to me. And that's really it. And the amount of damage this guy gets in the counters, like, this guy himself will 1-turn the boss. This character helps other characters 1-turn the boss. Being able to nullify negative attacks, negative effects is really great. Really, really huge. You can get around with locking and things like that. This character does a lot of damage himself. I mean, they could do like 440 mil attack stats or probably even higher, right? Which is crazy. The Rainbow Orb changing the 54% support, making everyone super effective, right? It's really nasty. I just think Super Vegito, it's like, it's really the target skill, man. The team protector mechanic is so huge for me. I think that's where I stand. I'm still thinking about Super Saiyan 4s above the gods, But I'm gonna stick my ground in here. If I feel like changing it later, I will. And again, you could make the argument for these two above these two. Now, this is a tier list I made just like tiering these characters based off of this, but mostly again the red zone kind of performance here is what I'm thinking, just in general. And again, these are all in the same tier. In fact, earlier I even had the Super Forces above the Gods, right? Because I keep going back and forth between these two. I keep going, arguably a little back and forth between these two. One thing I would say is, if you want to do something like this, I'm not gonna call you crazy. I feel like I thought about this too, and I could see the argument, because maybe you could say you like these two better than these two overall through the fights, especially because they can slot one a lot easier. But I don't think what these two do cover everything what these two are providing to the team, because they're also supporting. Goku is also literally unkillable. You could switch to the slot 1 variants of these characters, and on turn 4 they're actually really good slot 1 as well. And then I just think the fused states of these two are also overall providing more, which is why I like them better just generally as units. Now, if we talk about battle hardened foes, things change up quite a bit, right? Actually, quite a bit. I think the thing about battle hardened foes is this guy, you're not even going to see this guy's fusion. You don't see this guy's fusion either. But the thing about this Vegeta in battle hardened foes is that you switch to Goku. Goku has the Ghost Usher. So with Goku's Ghost Usher, that's probably one of the better active skills in the game just for this fight. I think the Year 7s are also just better just because they are slot 1 instantly. Then you turn, like, what happens is I feel like the fused forms of these characters end the fights. So what happens is you end the fight with the fused version of these guys, then you go to the next rotation on the next fight, and then these guys are in turn 2, then they're turn 4, then you end the fight. Then turn 2, turn 4, end the fight, right? I kind of becomes a chain reaction with these two. Beast Gohan target skill early on, slot 1 early on. UI Goku guaranteed dodge in that fight. INT Broly has the stun plus the tank 1. I say tank 1, slot 1 tanking viability. Grade 8 Vegeta, TEQ Broly do similar things. I think you can kind of switch them around depending on how you're feeling. This guy's still supporting Invincible slot 3. This guy has the grade 8 chaining, but it's not consistent. These two are not as great there per se. I think Gotenks is probably in a slightly better spot than this guy, but not as many Q Blast super attacks there. So I don't know. This is just what I'm thinking generally, though. I think you can make a lot of changes if you really want to. I'm gonna say it has to be like within like these tiers, though, is what I'm gonna be thinking. So I mean, is there any other characters that I think, we should address here? Like, who would be the next character I would have here? Janemba would probably be a character you could definitely start bringing up here. Janemba's so good. TEQ Super Gogeta is probably another character you can bring up here. Yeah, full power Frieza maybe even low-key. This is just talking about LRs, but I mean, if you're talking about TEQ low-key, TEQ Cell's like up here. Well, it's probably like closer here, range. TEQ Cell can slot 1 very well. I feel like just using TEQ Cell. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of different things you can do, but let me know what y'all thinking. Thanks y'all for watching, and I'm gonna move this here. Of course, I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out.